It's a Friday, which means there's a brand new batch of weekly challenges to go ahead and tackle inside of GT7, including a Le Mans themed special event. So event number 1 this week is going to see us head over to Deep Forest. This is going to be the European Sunday Cup 500. After that, we're going to head off-road, and that's going to be Fisherman's Ranch with the World Rally Challenge. And of course, it features those amazing jumps. We then have to survive the Death Chicane in the race of turbo sports cars. Let's see if we can survive through there. Then event number 4 is the special event for this week. It's the return of the Corvette 1 make, this time fittingly at Le Mans, considering it is on tomorrow. And then to finish off, it's the WTC 700, and once again we're going to be heading back to Deep Forest for that one. And then to round things off, it's going to be the rewards. So for one event this week, it's a 6-star roulette ticket parts ticket. For completing 3 of the events, it's going to be 150,000 credits, and for completing all 5, it's going to be a 6-star roulette ticket car ticket. Of course, that is probably the most prestigious reward that we can get from the weekly challenges. So not looking too bad, and I think we have a pretty strong week here. So jumping into the first event of the week, this is the European Sunday Cup 500, and it's set at Deep Forest. This will be the first of 2 trips to Deep Forest this week. Now, of course, this is aimed at European cars around a 500 pp rating, so it is very, very open, and of course, it's just a recommendation, but I'll be as close to it as possible. My car of choice here would be a 490 pp tuned BMW M3. So let's get started then with the first race of the week. Now it's a 2-lap sprint. There are a total of 8 cars on track, including yourself, 7 AI up in front of you. In terms of those AI, they really aren't too tough. The only 2 cars you might have to watch out for is the Alpine A110 and the Mercedes A45 AMG. That Mercedes is leagues above anything else on track, and I believe is the only 4-wheel drive car here. Now, how your race pans out is really going to be dependent on where some of these faster cars spawns in. So for me, it was the Mercedes that was sort of middle of the grid, and thankfully a lot of the time we'll sort of trip up over each other and then kind of just sit behind the driver in front. So thankfully you can sort of just pick them off one by one and hope that some of the faster cars will kind of get choked up there. And for me personally, that worked out really, really well. I was able to get my way through the grid quite quickly and of course get myself up into the lead and then just take a narrow victory over the likes of the Alpine and the Mercedes, which almost caught me there at the end. We're going to take a total of 15,000 credits with the clean race bonus, so a very low paying event, but we're also going to get the parts ticket on top of that. Let's move in to event number 2 this week then. So the second event this week is the World Rally Challenge. This takes place at Fisherman's Ranch, basically the Nordschleife of all of the rally tracks in GT7. Much longer than anything else, much more technical and a lot more jumps. I really enjoy this one. Now it is aimed at 700 pp or below cars, and of course mainly Group B rally cars. My car of choice here would be the Impreza Group B Rally, which I did have tuned up slightly, just closer towards about 650 pp. Now I would say in terms of the typical trend for a second race, this is a little bit longer. Now it's only a 2-lap sprint. There's a total of 12 cars on the grid, 11 AI up in front of you, and of course they are mainly going to be made up of Group B rally cars. Again, in terms of these rally cars, I think none of them are necessarily tuned, so I think they're completely fresh out the dealership. So they are quite easy to get past. It's just all going to be about your confidence on the dirt. I know a lot of people, especially when it comes to Gran Turismo, don't necessarily like driving on dirt or the snow. So really, if you're not that confident, you might have a harder time than someone that kind of spends a lot of time on the dirt tracks. For me personally, I don't mind it too much. I'm just not a huge fan of how the sort of jump physics are in GT7. I never have been, but I did manage to work my way through the grid with relative ease. And again, there's a big spread amongst them. So overall, it shouldn't be too tough for the majority of players, and it's going to take you around about 6.5 to 7 minutes to get completed. I definitely found it a nice break in between the sort of more track-based events, so I do like it when Polyphony do these. In terms of the payout, I didn't get the clean race bonus, but it's 65,000 credits and 8.4 miles travelled. Moving on to the third event this week then. This is Race of Turbo Sports Cars, and it takes place at Dragon Trail Seaside, which of course notoriously features the Death Chicane. Once again, there's a 700 pp rating here, and also, well, it's obvious, your car must be turbocharged to be able to enter this this event. My car of choice would be the Alfa Romeo, which I think is just probably one of my favorite road cars in GT7. Really enjoyed this one. Now in terms of the event, again, it's a little bit longer. It's a total of 5 laps, still very much a sprint race, and the grid has increased once again to a total of 16 cars, 15 AI. Now again, with a lot of these events, it's very hit and miss. Some cars are pushing up close towards a 700 pp rating, some very much aren't. So it's going to be very much a mixed bag depending on where certain cars sort of, I guess, spawn in for you during this event. If the faster cars are further back, you're going to have a much easier time, and really that's what it was like for me. I didn't have any problems whatsoever, and by the time we got into the beginning of lap 2, I was already up in podium positions, and by the time we got towards the death chicane again, I was up in first place. And at that point, it was just time to drive on, survive the death chicane, and go ahead and take a decent win here. Whilst in any other car, it would have been probably very mundane. I really do enjoy driving the Alfa, so not too bad whatsoever. In terms of the payout, still remains relatively low, 85,000 credits once again without the clean race bonus. And then for the rewards, well, we're going to get a 6-star roulette ticket parts for my daily driving marathon, and of course 150k on top for completing 3 events this week. Moving into event number 4 then. This is the Corvette 1 mate, which is returning, and well, it's at Le Mans this week. Of course, very fitting considering Le Mans is being held tomorrow. Now, in terms of the entry conditions, there is no PP cap here, and you can also use any of the generations of Corvette from the C1 all the way up to the C8. In terms of the laps, it's going to be a 3-lap sprint. It's going to be a total of 12 cars on the grid, and of course, your specified cars are any of the Corvettes. First place is going to bag you 110k without the clean race bonus. Second is 66k, and third is 44k. In terms of your main rival cars, it's mainly sort of race-tuned Corvettes of pretty much every single generation. A lot of these are very highly tuned. BOP is off. You can use a garage car for this one. Car settings are allowed. There is no damage and no penalty settings set to on. I was having a bit of a dilemma when it came to this event. I wasn't too sure on what to use, but in the end I settled on the C8 Corvette. First time around, I used the C5 because it was completely new to the game at that point, and this time around I just wanted to go for something a little bit more modern. Now, in terms of the event itself, like I mentioned, it is a 3-lap race with a total of 12 cars, 11 AI, all very heavily tuned, different generations of Corvette. Even the older Corvettes are going to be absolutely no slouch. They are going to be incredibly quick, very highly tuned, and they're going to be able to hold their own. Now, honestly, I'll be straight up here. I think I went a little bit too overpowered in the power department. I had insane top speed, way over 200 miles per hour, and I think a lot of these Corvettes are topping out around about 180 to 190 tops. So if you want to be competitive with them without being overpowered like I did here, then aim for around that. I think about 550 to 600 horsepower is more than enough to go ahead and have a nice challenge in this event and also win it in the end. For me, I was just picking them off one by one. Because I was running a relatively low downforce setup here on the C8 Corvette, I was able to just kind of match them on the top speed, and then as soon as we got to one of the chicanes, just dive down the inside and get the moves done. And well, of course, in terms of acceleration, we had plenty of it. So before even the end of lap 1, I was already up in the lead, and at that point I just go on to kind of increase the lead lap by lap to the point of 35 seconds in the end. So definitely a little bit too overpowered for this event. Probably will retry it and kind of down tune the Corvette to just get a bit more fun out of this one. However, the payout isn't too bad. It's 165,000 credits with that clean race bonus. So let's move in to the last event of the week then. This is back to Deep Forest Raceway, of course, where we started this week, this time for the WTC 700. Now, before you dive into this one, it is a tyre wear and fuel type race, and I would say it is a lot higher here than it is for a lot of the other WTC 700 events, so just bear that in mind. You are probably going to chew your tyres up here with relative ease. I went for the Genesis Group 4, which felt like a fitting car that I'd not used in a while, so I thought, well, great excuse to go ahead and get in it. Now, in terms of the race itself, it's a 10-lap race with a total grid of 20 cars, 19 AI, of course, all made up of Group 4 vehicles. Now, when it comes to my strategy, I wanted to be as fast as I could on my first stint. I wanted to do a relatively short first stint, make up as many positions in as much time as possible. So I went for the racing softs, and I also then balanced my fuel mix between 1, 3, and 6. Now, in terms of the race itself, again, most of the AI are basically bog standard Group 4s. They don't run any upgrades whatsoever. So as long as you're in a Group 4 car, you're going to be able to match them, like no matter what in terms of top speed. But of course, running the racing softs and of course keeping it in a decently high fuel mix will allow you to sort of keep up with them through the tight sections and get as many moves done as possible. And that's really what I was aiming to do here. I went for my one and only pit stop at the end of lap 4, so relatively early. Now at this point, I'm going to shake up the strategy a little bit. So the racing softs, the front right was completely dead at this point. So I knew the tyres wouldn't be too good in terms of tyre life no matter what I used. But I needed to be as fast as possible. So I went for the medium tyre to get me to the end of the race. And I knew at the end I'd probably struggle a little bit with tyre wear. Now of course, we've drank a lot of fuel here. So we're going to fill the car up to full and then balance it mainly between fuel mix 6 and fuel mix 3 to of course carry us to the end of the event without running out. So what we're trying to do here is the undercut on the majority of the cars. Again, some did pit in from this point, but the majority are going to pit anywhere from 5, 6 and lap 7. So from then, we're going to try and jump them through getting this early pit stop in. And again, we come out with plenty of clear track. So it's just a case of picking them off one by one, lap by lap, the majority in the pit stop. We did manage to get some on-track action done as well as we overtook the other Genesis G70 on track here. And of course, as the cars started to pit in, we'd then go ahead and just inherit the position. So end of lap 7 and we're up into P2, and by the end of lap 8 we're up into the lead as the Corvette did finally pit in. This car just seemingly waiting around forever before doing its pit stop. Of course that car running around on the hards, and in the end we gave ourselves a decent gap of way over 17 seconds. A very enjoyable strategy race, this one. And that will be it. We finish all 5 races in first place and get all 5 ticks of the week. In terms of the payout of this one, relatively low though, 110,000 credits without the clean race bonus. But of course we do get that free car ticket. So let's go ahead and open up our rewards. Now this was our daily driving marathon parts ticket. Now again, these are very, very hit and miss. The main thing I want is either the nitrous or the stage 5 weight reduction, and we got incredibly lucky on this one, getting the stage 5 weight reduction, this time for the Mercedes AMG GTR from 2017. Not too bad since it's worth 300k. In terms of the next part ticket, well, we wouldn't get as lucky this time. This is the one for of course completing one event this week. When it comes to these parts, I mainly wanted the nitrous, but unfortunately we weren't going to get them. Instead of getting something like weight reduction, this time around we got the titanium connecting rods and pistons for the Lamborghini Urus from 2018. We of course then need to add the 150,000 credits for completing 3 events. Then of course we get over to the best reward possible, the free car ticket. Now in terms of my roulette wheel, there was some decent cars on offer, things such as the Group 2 Honda and Lexus, of course a couple of VGTs and the Porsche, and that's exactly what I wanted and exactly what I got. The 918 Spider, one of my personal favorite cars in GT7 period. Plenty of build potential with this one, so 0 complaints from me. And there we go. That is the first set of weekly challenges I've done in what feels like quite a while. I believe a couple of weeks ago I missed one because I was really under the weather. I just sounded like I was chewing a box of nails. And then last week I was traveling down to London on the train, of course, for the GT World Series. And I just want to say a huge thank you to both PlayStation and of course Polyphony for inviting me out to that. Really, really enjoyable. A huge thank you to everybody listed on screen now and all of my channel members, as well as huge thank you to you guys at home. Thankfully, daily videos are going to be returning. I have a lot of content that I've got planned now, and I'm just starting to get back into the groove of it. So if I'm a little bit rusty, hopefully it'll kind of pick up as we start doing video after video again. But plenty to talk about, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care, guys. Peace.